Welcome friends, welcome back to the kitchen, welcome back to Sunday morning in the old cookbook show. Today we're going to do another recipe out of this little cookbook called the Pennsylvania Dutch and Their Cookery. This is from 1935, and a couple of weeks ago we did a cake out of this book, and I really enjoyed the cake. Thought I'd do a pie. We're going to do the molasses pie Neversink, or maybe the Neversink Molasses pie. It seems to be a derivative of a shoe fly pie. Or adjacent to a shoe fly pie. There is a shoe fly pie in this cookbook, but I don't want to do that one yet. I want to do a little bit more research because there are a lot of molasses pies that are all very similar, and I want to kind of put them together in my brain. So this pie, it's a crust, and then it seems like there's 3 layers inside, and then there's a lattice top. So we're going to start out with the first of the layers, and that is some fine breadcrumbs. Now, the recipe doesn't say what size pie plate to use. I'm using a 10-inch deep dish because it seemed like there was a lot of ingredients in here. But in this time period, a lot of pies were made in a much shallower 8-inch pie plate. So I'm hoping I'm on the right track. Next up are some seedless raisins, and they get layered on top of the breadcrumbs. Try to get them distributed evenly. There we go. Now the next layer consists of everything that's in the first column of the recipe. So brown sugar, flour, cinnamon, the zest of half a lemon, okay, zest of half a lemon, and molasses. Okay, and we'll give this a mix together. And then we pour this mixture into the pie shell. Switch to a bigger spatula to get the last of it out. It's really sticky, really sticky. Okay. The third layer is brown sugar, flour, and shortening. In this case, I'm using butter. So this just gets mixed together as a crumble. Now, I'm looking at the pie plate and I'm saying I should have used an 8-inch shallow dish pie plate, definitely. There's not enough filling here to make up the deeper pie plate. So that is an error. And it's hard to tell in these older cookbooks because, some of these pies, there's enough in them that it could fill that pie plate. But for the most part, I should have known that it was the shallow dish pie plate. So now I'm just going to crumble these together. Okay, that's a pretty good mixture. And this just gets sprinkled over the top into a layer. Now this gets a lattice top. So I'll put a little bit of flour. I'm going to put a little bit of flour on my bench. And I've got an all butter pie crust here that I'm going to roll out and cut for a lattice top. And don't fear pie dough. It's not nearly as delicate or fussy as some people would have you believe. You can flip it over, you can move it about, make sure that the flour is on your bench properly, a little bit of flour on top, so the rolling pin doesn't stick. Don't get freaked out by it. There we go. And it says 1-inch strips, so I'll just square up this edge and cut it into strips. Okay, now pie. I'm just going to take one of the longer strips from the middle, lay it on. It's pretty simple. It can seem like it's difficult, and there are days where I really don't want to make one, or I really don't want to do a lattice top, but they're really not all that difficult. And the payoff at the table is usually huge, so just choose your spacing. Just like that. And a little bit of egg wash underneath each of these, just so I can get it to stick around the edges. And then just pinch them in. And I'll do that all the way around. Now the baking directions for this are bake in a slow oven. So I've got the oven preheated to 325. I've also got a baking sheet in there just in case it bubbles over. I don't think this one's going to bubble over. There's just not enough filling for that to be a fear in this case, but I think if this was in a shallower 8-inch tin, that might be an actual fear. So that looks pretty good. I'm just going to wash, it doesn't say to do this, but I am just going to put a little bit of egg wash over the lattice, just because it makes it nice and brown when it comes out of the oven. So I'm going to stick this in. I'm going to say it's at least 45 minutes to an hour. We'll see at the end what it takes.
Hey Glenn, you're looking very closely at your pie.
Well, this is called
Hey friends.
This is called Neversink Molasses. Oh, molasses pie. It's very stout. It is a very stout pie.
A stout pie?
It is strong. It's husky. It's husky.
Are you saying it's heavy? Is it heavy? Like, is there a lot of mass to it?
There is a lot of mass to it, but it's also stuck together really well.
Why does it? That's an odd.
Don't think about the odd. Just eat it.
I just looking at the crust. It just doesn't quite have the. I just say it. It's gooey.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this is really intriguing. So that's like a big piece of joyous molasses.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's a molasses pie? What did you say it was called?
It's the Neversink Molasses pie.
Okay.
So it's a layer of breadcrumbs, raisins, a molasses mixture, and then a streusel top with a lattice top on top. Oh, wait.
But wait, there's more?
Pie crust, breadcrumbs, raisins, molasses, streusel top, lattice top.
That's a lot of layers.
There's a whole lot of stuff going on in that pie.
That is not a simplest pie kind of pie recipe in any way. Like that seems like that's a lot of...
When you say easy as pie,
this is not it?
It's not it.
So I'm fascinated because it's interesting because when I was tasting it, I didn't realize there was raisins in it, but it had a very, I thought, oh, this is kind of like a very heavy molasses date. I suddenly can't think of what those things are called. Date
squares.
Date square. Thank you. I could not think of the name. I don't know why I couldn't remember the word square,
yeah.
but I had that kind of a date square kind of flavor to it with extra molasses.
That's a hearty pie. Okay, so I used fancy molasses, and the molasses flavor is still really heavy. So if you used one of the other molasses, like blackstrap molasses, I think this would be just too much for me. Way too much molasses flavor. That's an interesting pie. That is an interesting pie. I could eat a small piece of it and say, wow, that was really great, but I don't think I could eat a full piece of it. I wouldn't go back for a second.
I don't know. I really like it. I think my grandfather would love it
Oh, so would mine.
because he was someone who would eat like a bowl of molasses.
Yeah, my grandfather would have eaten that and would have hid it so that nobody else could have a slice. But for me, it's kind of it's
It
one
has
of those.
that rich flavor.
It's too
Yeah.
rich for me. Too
It
rich.
is very rich. A
Yeah.
small piece, it would need, yeah. But I still kind of like it.
Okay, so this I think is one that if you like pies, you should try.
You also have to like molasses.
You have to like molasses. Definitely have to like molasses.
Yes.
Okay, thanks for stopping by. See you again soon.